Okay, I don't know why, but I'm making another interview, video about another interview. And some people have been really nice to me and given me some of these examples. And here's my web page on interviews from hell. And I talk a little bit about the crimes that you should never commit. I have a solar example, which makes sense for an interview. And then there's a toll road example. This is an obviously toll road example in Malaysia. And look at this. They go on and on with the traffic volumes and the financing and instructions for the model. Oh my God. And then my friend Jose, he is truly wonderful. He said, well, you make a video about bond financing. So I've got another exam. This is taken from a kind of real one. And it's kind of, when you read it first, it's unbelievable. Let me just say something first. When I worked at a bank. I didn't really fit in the bank maybe quite as well as I should have. When I was a banker and I went for an interview, I had a friend who I'd worked with before, and here's what I had to do to prepare for the interview. I got a haircut, and I went to my friend, and he said, "Get a haircut." I said, "I just go get another haircut." And then he said, "Wear socks." I remember, wear socks that come up high. Don't show your legs. Don't cross your legs and show your leg over there in the interview. And I forgot what other advice, but basically those were the kind of things that were the advice. And don't say something really stupid like I probably did. I got the job for a little while. And so, you guys, if I got this case, if I had received this case, I think it would have affected me psychologically because I would have said, "Man, do I really want to get into this business?" So here's the case. I might have changed the names a little bit. Stormy Daniels and here's what I would do first if I got this interview now. And don't forget, I've made a lot of these goddamn models. I've done them all wrong. Okay, Stormy Daniels is going to build and operate and design a prison. So this is supposed to be for a PPP, purchase. What is it they called it in the purchase plowing parity, perpetual pending project. Blah 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 blah. Oh no, public-private partnership. Um, and they Belarus needs to make a prison for people who commit XL crimes. Okay, that's our project. And Stormy has been approached by Lehman Brothers. I might have changed the names just a little bit here. The prison is going to take 2 years to build, and it's going to take 10 years. So I'm reading it with you. Why not? Halfway through the project, the off taker, right, or the concessionaire, they are going to put a payment in here because you know what they're going to do. They're going to receive the prison. Does it already say that somewhere? Yeah, the after the COD, you get it for 10 years, but then you got to give it back. So they're paying kind of for it a little bit. And then they give you a forecasted revenue and expense. As soon as you see that, I've got the operating. Operating is not hard. And that's what they were doing. They were making you focus on the financing, and the revenue will be collected. I gotta put my whatever, my page break. And then they go through the financing, and then you suddenly say, oh my God, what are they doing? They're having a loan construction credit facility. What that means is you can borrow that kind of whenever you want. But it must be paid in full. So they make you do a little refinancing of a credit facility at the start of the operations. And then they say they give you the base rate, and then they say 100 BPS. So they want to make sure that 100 BPS is 1%. So they want to make sure that you know kind of some of this stuff. And they also say 100 BPS upfront fee, so you don't get intimidated by that. And then they also put a commitment fee on opening balance of undrawn amounts. So they do give you that, but they make you model some of the financing. And then I guess they want, if you come into their bank, they want you to, I guess Lehman Brothers would do this, they want you to do that, understand basis points and all that stuff. And then they have a senior bonds, and that's why I thought I'd do this for Jose. And they will pay semi-annual interest payments at 2%, okay, plus a credit spread. And again, they give you basis points. And they say you do it on the opening balance. So hopefully there will be no circular references, okay? And I'm just seeing how long it'll take. This is no time pressure, okay? I think this one they kind of sent you it, and you're supposed to somehow send it back. Whatever, I don't know. The senior bonds, that's not funny. They will have mortgage down. Now, here, the first thing I see here, oh, shoot. We're going to have to put it in 6 months by 6 months. And then then there's equity, and that's 350 million. And she's allowed to get dividends, and she doesn't want to invest more than 350, but she might invest less, and she wants to know what her IRR is. And you're supposed to make a financial model, and then the purpose of the financial model is to calculate the optimal, whatever that is, financial structure and ideal amount of senior bonds. Now I thought they gave you the senior bonds. I should have put a little thing here. The senior bonds. Okay, just a minute. They didn't give you an amount, did they? Sorry about that. I should have looked at it a little more carefully. So I guess you're supposed to put the senior bonds. The purpose of the finance is to calculate that. I might have missed that, and then you compute the IRR, and then they want some answers. What's the average life of the bond? You're supposed to compute average lives a little bit. What's the minimum DSCR, the average DSCR? What's the if the operating cost changes? What's the revenue? What's the break even until we get a default? If the last payment from the government was 200 instead of 400, what would be how would that change the optimal financial structure? That's a little worrisome to me. If the price of the bond is 103.3 on April 1st, 2028, what's the yield to maturity? Oh, that scares the hell out of me. That would. But that's just an IRR. So everything's an IRR. At substantial completion, Stormy and they're trying to test if you took the CFA maybe or something like that. At the time of substantial commitment, Stormy is contemplating refinancing the bonds. If at that time the benchmark rate is 150 and the credit spread is different, what's the maximum amount you can raise? And where is I don't know what the, do they have a DSCR? They have a DSCR commitment of 1.15, and they, at the very last thing they're basically asking you to do some sculpting. Okay, and now, oh no, I'm gonna get yelled at. Oh no. So so what we're gonna do is just make this model, okay, and when we make this model, the first thing is to read this and try to understand some of the issues. And for me, a big issue is what this whole optimal financing is all about. And we let's open an Excel file. Now the Excel file they gave you has basically an S curve. And the very first thing you see is this sucks, because what we really want to do is arrange it differently. Let's open a different sheet. And remember, I'm not wasting my time with too much with this. I'm gonna just make A, B, and C small. I learned how to do that, I remember, in Abu Dhabi sometime in the 1990s. That was my big takeaway. And then what you want to do is put some inputs. And when you put the inputs in, you just, once you start looking at this, and don't try to do any of the Excel before you've done the inputs. Okay. And the first input you might put there is, and why they made this a small, but let's put a timeline. Okay, and maybe I'll have to make this a little bit larger so you can see it, and then you can do it. And the first thing we'll put is financial close. And what they did in this example is they gave you uh, they gave you hints on how to do the timeline. The prison will be 2 years. Financial close, I made it the first of the month, I think. Okay, and then yes, okay. All right, I changed that. Maybe I should have left it at the end. Halfway through, they gave you dates associated with this. They'll collect it, and then down here. Sorry, I'm going slowly. Once a financial model with the financial close date, the first, and proceeding on a monthly basis thereafter. They don't say monthly and semi-annual, and actually that's going to make the model a little more difficult, but we better follow their instructions. So I'm going to make this April 1st, April Fool's Day, 142022. And as soon as you do that, press Shift Control 3, okay? Get the date. Well, you don't have to do this, but it's going to make things easier. Try to do. I'm going to try to do things that make things easier. And then we put a construction period. And since they made you do this monthly, put how many months, and we have 24 months. What in the heck are they doing here? They gave you this horrible thing. Oh my God! And they what? They reformatted the whole sheet. Oh, that sucks. Okay. Oh God! Just a minute. So what? Oh my God! I've never seen this before. I'm gonna, after the writing, I'm gonna put some things like this. Maybe that will mess everything up. Okay, and then after the financial close, you can put commercial operation. And what they did, which was kind of nice, is they in their little example, they threw these terms at you, and they said, well, substantial completion. They called it substantial completion. So I guess if a couple of the doorknobs weren't put on correctly, well, the doorknobs are important on a prison, but light bulbs maybe not so important. Those XL prisoners can sleep in the dark. Okay. Oh God. Listen to the background. And then as you're working through the inputs, now I got criticized in my last thing for not using EO month. Okay, and what I do is just, and what am I doing here? Uh, This is why I do it, because I mess up the different ways people do dates, especially in the U.S. Okay, and then so then we have our concession period. Now that this, by the way, this is not necessarily typical. Uh, um, the concession period often starts at the financial close, and if you have a delay in construction, you might have a shorter concession, and you might try to act smart sometime and show that you know that. And let's just, the number of concession months is 10 times 12, and that's, I think, 120 months. And so you put the end of concession. Of course, if you want to do this with the EO month, it's not that big a deal. I find the E date a little bit more straightforward, and you just want to always tie something to the end of the month or the beginning of the month. Okay, so you've got the timeline. That's nice and clear. What we're going to have to do is put what months we repay the debt, and the months we repay the debt will be month of bond repayment. We could. I'm not sure this is the way I would recommend you necessarily do it, but you have the COD date, everything, and you put month, and you put that. That's one of the months we're going to use. How about and then the other month of the debt repayment, we're going to use an or is equal E date of the commercial operation, and then we can go 6 months out, and then we can put months for that. Okay, so this was a little bit hard in that the timeline is not quite as easy as this solar project we did a little bit earlier. So now we've got the timeline. I'm going slow, and I know there's getting trouble for making too many videos these days. Oh God, because life is upside down. And then we get, now, once we have that, the very first thing I would want to compute, even in this case, is I would want to compute the that project IRR. I'm sorry. I think there's some purpose. Okay, so let's put the operations, and then we can put revenues, and then perhaps, should we put base revenues, and then we put what units they are in, and maybe these are in USD or Canadian dollars. Let's put Canadian dollars, and let's say that they're, and then we have to decide, should we do this in millions or thousands or just dollars? And I'm working on a project that has, I shouldn't say this, but it has quite a few billions of this stuff. And they put their model in dollars with the billions. And I think that's not a bad way to do it. I didn't change that. I changed a lot of it, just about everything else. But I said, okay, so let's put 23 million and 6 million. So and then we occasionally will get confused by all this stuff. And then right below that, we'll put revenue growth. And they kept on saying percent, and then they put PA, and then they put per annum. And what we have to do is decide now if we have a monthly model, this is going to be a pain. The only kind of painful thing here that you just recognize by putting this in is when do we grow these things? When do we escalate these things? And if this is kind of a PPP project, it would not be uncommon. Well, I'll make it a PPP project. The way they had it, it wasn't quite that. I think they put 2%. And then the revenue is expected to go. And then they had the costs, and this is so stupid. You know, when people have costs in all of this inflation at different periods and all that, as if they can predict the inflation rate on different items. It's almost like a fraud, like, oh, I'm showing you fancy stuff. But whatever, I'm going to keep going. And then we have 16 million. And then they say the operating cost growth is percent per annum. And let's be a little bit fancy. And let's say that I'm inserting a line, whatever I did, control space bar, shift control plus, uh, uh, revenue increase month. So I'm going to say we don't really increase it every single month. I'm going to say that we do this on the months after the COD. So we're going to make it that might be something kind of stupid because uh, I'm adding complexity. I'm adding unnecessarily complexity, and let me try not to do any more of that because this is complex enough. Maybe we could have just added it really simply. The revenue will be collected to pay debt service and blah, blah, blah. So we're just going through some of the key things. Now, they say there will be three sources of financing. I see four. I see that there will be payment, that they will make a 100 million payment. Oh, no, no, no. Oh, God. Just stop. So before we do this, let's put our capital expenditures. And luckily, what they did is they gave you this stuff, but unluckily, they they gave it in a horrible, horrible way. They gave it on a line, and you know, so I'm going to copy and paste special as a transpose, something I hardly ever would do, and then let's move this maybe over to here. And then let's make the things just a little bit bigger to get our date. Oh no. Let's see what we have. Okay. There are our dates and there's our amount. So I'm trying this time. The reason I did this one is hopefully I really wanted to make this easier for you, not more difficult. Okay. And I press Shift Control 1, by the way, to just do a little bit of formatting. Okay, so that's our construction, and that's what we should start any model with. Um, okay. Now you remember, I hope, here's the big problem with this, is that there will be interest during construction too. Now, if you want to be fancy a little bit, and it's not so fancy, it's so easy. If you press F5, whoops, excuse me, if you press F5, I can't find the F5, and go to special, and then go to constants, and then go to click off the text, and then it finds all the stuff for you, and then this is the hang on, which one is this? This is the fill, this is the thing, and if you want to maybe make it into a blue number so you can show what's an input. So you could do that at the end of your inputs, of course, as well. And when you do your final model, make absolutely sure that you kind of don't put any inputs in the financing part, because that would be a major Excel crime. Ugh, not a life sentence, but pretty bad. Okay. Now, so that gives you our kind of our operations and our capex, and then let's put the next thing, and then we have the payments from. I'll put it there. So okay, maybe they didn't use that country in the example, and they have two payments. We have two payments, and when you put the payments, I suggest you just put the exact payment in, and then make absolutely sure halfway through the construction period. So this halfway through the construction period, and I did it a little bit badly. This is in period 12. I should have put, okay, payment date 1, and we put a date, and we put the 1 March 23. Okay, and then we put the payment amount. And the first payment amount you get is the 100 million. Okay, that seems to be a lot of money. And then we can copy this again and put the second payment amount. And keep it, don't try to, consolidate too much. Maybe I'm being too, some of these rules I have are not really Excel prisoner rules. But I wouldn't try to maybe put it all on one line. You could. Don't get fancy. Try to keep it as clear as you can. Now, I'm not sure that I wouldn't call this financing, but what they're doing is they're paying. So the government is paying 500 million, and you're getting the rest. You're paying out of that total cost of 2 billion. Uh, uh, you're paying the rest, and you can see I'm kind of nervous. If I got this, this would suck. And then we put financing. And for the financing, let's just keep going. And again, you can see that if somebody kind of gives you the inputs, it's almost a disadvantage. And then let's put this construction loan facility. We'll call it CLF. And it has to be repaid in full. We can't receive dividends, that's nothing. And we have a base rate, upfront fee, commitment fee, and where do they say how much the facility will be? And the way I'm seeing it, when I first read it, I thought they would give you a facility amount, and I don't see it. So, and then we have the senior bonds, and we have the interest rates, 2%, blah blah blah. And the only thing we have an amount is on the equity. So you're supposed to size the debt and equity, and maybe even though they say inject no more, we have kind of a two variables and two unknowns. If we put three variables and three unknowns, it's going to be a pain. So what we can do here, and this is what we're going to have to find. We'll put the commitment amount, and let's put that in. And who knows what it's going to be? Let's just put let's put 1 billion. Okay. And I put 1 million. Okay, and we don't know. We're going to adjust that. If we put too much, that's what they seem to be saying is if they put too much or too little, we'll put it in, and then we'll put the repayment date. Let's put the availability. Let's put the availability start. So you know that's a term people use for when you can start borrowing money on this, and we'll put availability end. Now, and this date will be equal to the COD date, so we'll put equal E date, and we'll go to that commercial operation, and then you can put a -1 if you're a little fancy, and so you pay it right before. You have to pay it right before. And then after that, we can put the repayment date. Okay, so we kind of put how much we have, how much we're going to borrow. Then we put the the repayment in. So whenever you have this, I say size the debt, which is the big task here. Then figure out how you're going to get the money in, and then figure out how you're going to get the money after that out. And then you can put interest rates and fees. Let's put the base interest rate, and then they gave you a percent PA, and they didn't tell you what to do if there are monthly periods. And the last thing you want to do is start showing your prowess with 360 days or something like that, and put kind of that we're going to allocate the interest on a 360-day period and figure out how many days are in a 360-day month and all that. And maybe if you want to really get screwed up, but that might really, really slow you down. So they're going to charge you just a minute. Oh, hang on. I thought it was a 25% fee. Just a minute. So we're going to charge a base rate of 1% and a credit spread of 1%. Okay, and don't, if somebody really would put 100 here instead of 1%. Oh God. Okay, and I'm so tempted. You notice I'm not using my generic macros or any shortcuts or anything else, and I'm not wasting a whole lot of time on formatting, I hope. Okay, and then we put our upfront uh, fee, and that's just a one-time number. That's just payable right at the financial close. I hope they said it. Upfront fee. They don't say that it's at financial close, but they do say it's 1%. And then they say they have a commitment fee. And then they put this one is going to be a percent per annum. Okay, and then they said take that credit spread and multiply it by 75%. Now I guess you know uh, 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 is that what they say? Oh, 25% of the credit spread. Oh, that's pretty low. So they put equal 25% times the credit spread. Now, if you do something like that, maybe just put 0.25%. Just put it in. Oh God, it kind of they have some funky format that they're giving you. Oh, maybe that's kind of interesting. Okay, and then I'll give you the blank thing, and then you kind of go through the senior bonds. You do the same kind of thing, and you could almost, again, it's how much are the bonds going to be, and do they give you a little hint? Your task. If the payment was, so they changed the payment down here, and they changed the revenue default, and then they give you a price of bonds, but they notice they never give you the amount of the bonds. So what you're supposed to do there is, and let's put, what should we do? Okay, let's call this what was call this the, notice that I can't talk and type at the same time. A problem that is either related to my gender or my age or both. And then we have the bond facility. Now I'm going to kind of just lay it out in the same sort of way. Okay. And then we have the bond amount. Let's leave that for now at the same gigantic amount. And what they're trying to have you do is then size these, obviously. And what it seems to be, the way I look at this is they're going to tell you to put 350 million of equity in. And if you put 350 million of equity in, let's see how much, and then we have to be able to repay this this facility with 350, and what's the remaining amount of the bond. And then just like anything else, like any other debt facility, we start with the bonds must be issued at the financial close date, which is so inefficient. That means we're going to have we're going to have a surplus cash, I think. Okay, so we put issue date. So they give you that, and we need that kind of information about this. And I guess that's for Jose. For me, that's the inefficiency about bonds. You can't just draw the bonds at one time. Now they will be there's no repayment during the interest. Hang on, I'm skipping there. Interest, and they pay semi-annual payments. We already kind of put that in the thing, and then we have 2% interest and 2% credit spread. So the interest rate is 2%, and the credit spread is 2%. And the senior bonds must be issued, and I think I have the date perhaps a little bit wrong, but there's basically a tail of 6 months. So we can take this the repayment date. The repayment date is equal to E date, and we go up to that very last end of concession and put comma -6, and then we get and yes, see, this is an October date. Okay. And then if we want to put here, we're going to need the tenor, and let's put that in. Well, we want to repay this payment over 6 months periods. Let's put this in years first. Well, let's be a little bit crazy, because and then you put this date diff. I didn't look. It doesn't say date diff, but you can take the uh, uh, sorry, final repayment date, and then let's put first repayment date. Okay, and then we put a date here. And actually, we don't pay it right at the financial close. We put equal uh, date. And look at this. I don't usually do it like this, so I'm gonna probably get. I'm gonna put 6 months e date, and I use everything with e date. Maybe I should have done this probably with EO month, like somebody said. Okay, just because that's what people tend to use, even though it's complete bullshit. And we put date diff, and that this is something I would not get emotional about at an Excel party, really. And we can put, well, how many months do we have? Whoops. Just a minute. We'll start with first, and then it gives us, we have, this was months, sorry. And then we have the years. If we want, so equal. And we have to be really careful. Now they said a mortgage style. That's why I'm being a little more careful. Okay. And wow, what am I keeping doing wrong? Obviously, I don't use this enough. Did I put the end first? Okay, it's 9 years. And then we can put periods. And we're going to need the this one. I'm going to put times 2. We're going to need that one because when we compute the PMT, we want to make absolutely sure that this works. And what did I do here? Why is this all wrong? Oh, this was the issue date. We don't have an availability end anymore. Okay, so this was a little bit painful. And then let's see what else we have with the bond. We're fully amortizing, and okay, there's an upfront fee on the bond of 200 basis points, again 2%. But the bond itself doesn't have a commitment fee because there's no undrawn balance. So that's for me almost the hardest thing, is just to make sure and structure the the repayments really, really carefully. I can imagine if I got this and I never kind of really made a model, it would really freak me out. And I would say, I don't want a job like this. And then you put the equity. And let's put the maximum, and let's put CAD. And we on the equity commitment we have 300, and we have 350 million, and she's able to get the dividends when the bond is repaid. And it doesn't say that the interest on the bond would be in the same months as the principal payments, but it almost always will be. And and then she doesn't want to put any other money into the project, then that means it's a non-recourse project financing, and she wants to get a high IRR as possible to do all the other work. And then you're supposed to compute the IRR NPV of the project, and you're supposed to use a 4% discount rate. Very, very interesting that they use a 4% discount rate. And then we can do the rest of it. So now we're kind of ready to go. Okay, we've got the assumptions laid out. And again, let's do this one more time. So let's go to function F5. Let's go to special. Let's go to constants. Let's get off the text, and let's go to home and just do it one more time so we can kind of see all the assumptions we made. Now with these bond amounts, we're going to have to play with to get it all right. And you know what I would do? I would put spinner boxes around these, but I better not. And the thing I hate worse than anything else is these little damn whatever. Why do they always tell you to use this whatever these things, the data validation things? I can't remember. Okay, so let's get the timeline in first. Let's figure out, which is the biggest curiosity to me, what kind of IRR Stormy is going to make after she receives this amount. You know, and when they say the project NPV, they didn't say equity IRR, project IRR, of course, and they probably mean, if nobody tells you that, what they do is they probably mean it's the equity IRR. Okay, and so I'm going to make the same sort of thing, and the very first thing is let's count how many periods we need. So we'll put, I'm even going to add that. Now that's totally optional. And when I go through here, just a few little shortcuts. If I press Control D, I get that, and then we add in the total month. So we want to, you know, and this one normally I would make a lot more, but this one I'll make less. And there are some things I would do. Now this is, I know, controversial. Let's start here. First, let's get this damn thing formatted in a reasonable way. And let's put Alt EIS and press Tab and put 144. Okay, so let's put period. Let's go up here and put timeline. Now, when you do this, the other thing you could do is, if you got a little fancy, you could click on this whole thing up here and make it bold, you know, or even make it bold plus some other color, you know. I don't know. Let's just leave it. Yeah, let's leave it like that. A little bit fancy, okay? All right, and then we can. So we're going to put the things in the columns correctly. And the very first thing I would do is I would put pre-COD construction flag. Okay. It absolutely, you know, actually in this case, I'm not going to do it. I'm going to change my mind. Let's put beginning of period, and then let's put end of period. So they specifically asked you to do a monthly model. And what I would do is take the financial close -1, put up here, and get this one +1. And then I would put E date and put this one, comma, 1 and -1 so we can get it all okay. And then you go to the end, and then I'm not using any generic macros, anything else. You click Control Spacebar for the whole thing, Shift Control right arrow, Control 0. And when you press Control 0, it cuts the sheet off for you. And then when you do this, you can press Shift Control right arrow and Control R. And if you think you're all fancy, you can do that other thing. And if you don't like these dates, then you can press Control Spacebar and make it a little bit wider. Don't start doing it one by one. My God, please don't do that one by one. Okay, and then we can put our pre-COD period. Now you could do this two ways, and let's put date and show that you're very careful with this kind of stuff, and then you put the for pre you can put call that a flag, and then I would insert maybe 1 or 2 lines here, and then I'm gonna just do it with the 24 months like this. Oh God, we gotta take that and put that backwards here, and then we're gonna start everything here. So you put an equal sign, you go up to the top, and you put less than or equal to, and you press the F4 button. Okay, Shift Control right arrow Control R. You can leave it as true false, or you can put it as 1 0, and it's probably a tiny little bit more conventional and more proper to put this as a 1 or a 0. And whoops. And when you do that, another very good idea would be to then put up here a sum column and put up here units. And I messed this up. The sum column, let's put over here. You'll see in just a minute why we might want to do this. Put equal to sum and get all the stuff out. So again, let's press that. Okay, why they gave you this piece of, okay, and then now we probably are going to put the operating period or concession, and we'll put another flag there. And this time we go back, and you can see hopefully what you're doing is going step by step. Now, whatever, I don't know if I really meant that. And this is going to be up. No, let's do this a little bit differently. Let's put the start of the repayment, the start of the commercial operation, and then over here, let's do it with the end of the commercial operation. We're going to do the same thing here. Okay, and then you can show your prowess just a little bit, but put and this is why I always use the start date. You could all do this always with the end date and the EO date, and you can kind of practice this, and if anybody desperately wants that, just whatever. And then I talk to myself like I'm talking to myself now. I'm not talking to really anybody else. And if that date is greater than or equal to the COD date, then we're in the operations. And if that date here is less than this date, which we don't really need at this time, we can do it like this, and then you can hopefully you get your little flags done, okay? And in this case, we sum up all of the flags. This investment you make in the timeline is absolutely invaluable. It really is. Okay, and once you've done that, now let's start with the operations. Uh, because, when we do the operations, by the way, they didn't put any taxes in here. when we put the operations in, we'll let's put revenues without inflation, and let's put that in Canadian dollars, and let's see what our revenues are. Okay, and let's make that a little bit wider. Okay, and what you there start doing is you always start kind of in this first thing, and then you press the F4 and multiply that by the concession period. So we have nothing at the first, and then we have stuff. And then as we're doing this in pure Canadian dollars, we do this one, and because I usually do this with shortcuts, I have to remember the Alt H9 or whatever it is. Okay, and then you might be able to, you might want to, we'll leave this. Yeah, you might want to make one little of your own shortcut keys, but I'm not going to do this. And then we'll put the inflation rate. Now, what we could do is let's put the inflation period. Okay, and this is going to be the month. This is going to be a flag, sorry. And we go over here and we said, well, we're going to only inflate this when the in 1 month. And that might have been a really stupid, really bad thing to do, because you know making something more complicated than you have to, that's kind of a ridiculous thing to do. So you could put up here, you could put let's put the inflation period, and we put the month, and we just go up to the top here, and then we make that equal to this. Okay, but it's just about right if we do that, and then you can make that again a 1 or a 0. Okay, but then we're the problem is we're inflating in the pre-construction period. So what we don't want to start inflating until we're bigger than the commercial operation date. So we this is going to be a little bit hard. We'll take this away, and we'll put right here, and month is greater than 4, or this date. Again, start with the start date, or if you're always working with the end date, that's kind of okay too. And multiply that by 1. Oops. And I put less than, and of course I meant to be putting a greater than. Okay. And then you can get the sum and make sure that we have the right number. We should have 9 inflation periods because we didn't inflate it in the very first date. And then you can put the inflation rate, and this we're going to leave in percent per annum, okay, because we're only inflating it 1 period per year. So you can just what I would do is just put this in. Okay, no problem with there. Or, well, let's do it a little bit better. We could also multiply it by the flag. That would be a better way to do it in this case. So we can see exactly what dates the inflation occurs, and then we put in inflation index. And if it's a real PPP project, it would have some kind of structure like this. Okay, and then somebody might really yell at you about this. Oh God. About putting a 1 in here. Or you could do this. how about this? We'll put index start. Other. And this is such a silly thing to do. I can't believe I'm doing it. But you put an index, you put an equal sign, and you go over to that one. And then you take this index multiplied by 1 plus the inflation rate, just above. Okay. Shift Control 1 and Shift Control R. Shift Control right arrow, Shift Control R. And so we have our inflation index, and then we finally have our inflated. Let's just call this our total revenues. Okay, and that's going to be a big deal to compute that, and we lay it out. I think you want to lay it out as clearly as you possibly can, and then I think you want to go to the home page and perhaps make it a little bit of a underline. Okay, that's our first part number one. And I really should. I'm not. I kind of want to make a shortcut key to do the formatting, but I'm not going to. And then let's put operation. Let's put expenses. And maybe you could have argued, well, we should have made our capex first, but that's not so terribly important. And then you put operating. It's okay. Don't worry about it. You're the one. It's fine.
I don't want her to open the door.
Yes, now everybody's going to hear this. You know, I'm going to get 1,000 views on this. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, I won't really ever get 1,000 views on anything. Oh, great, thank you. Okay, so now we have our operating expense. Now, they didn't tell you how you are supposed to inflate this operating expense. What they should have told you is the operating expenses are going to be in 2022 Canadian dollars, and so you should start the operating expense from there. But let's assume that this one we don't have to put in inflation in period. We're going to inflate from the COD. How about I'll do that just to show that you know that they should do this. We'll just make this equal to the operating flag or the concession flag. Okay. Shift Control right arrow Control R. And then you put the inflation rate just like we did before, but this time now if you really fancy with this, okay, and I'm gonna pause the video. I'm gonna put percent per period, okay, and I'm gonna go. I'm gonna pause the video. Don't worry. I'm gonna finish this later. And then what you do is if you want it monthly, you take 1 plus the annual rate, and you raise that to the power 1 divided by 12, and then you subtract 1 instead of doing the other way. And now you can press Shift Control 5, and you can increase this just a little bit. Shift Control right arrow Control R. And finally, for the inflation index, we can, this time when you put an index in, you can start with your index start crap. Okay, and after you start with your, oh God, after you start with your index start, you put an equal sign, you take this index and you put 1 plus this one, but inside the bracket, not outside the bracket, you multiply that by the flag, and then you you have it. You have it all done. Hi. No, don't worry. And then we have the operating cost. No, it's fine. And then after the operating cost, you take the index and you multiply that by this one. And on this one, I should have taken this index and, of course, multiplied it by our concession period. Excuse me for that one. Okay. And I hope so far you're getting the idea that, you know, don't put the financing in first. That's what they want to know. Clearly, this whole case is all about financing, but get everything else in first, okay? And it sounds like they wanted to make it fairly straightforward on this one, okay? And then after you do this one, okay, then we'll put so we got the revenues, then let's put the capital expenditures. And I hope you know, and I hope you understand, and let's put how about we'll put even though we did this flag, I'm going to redo this flag. That's kind of silly, maybe. Some of this stuff you can very legitimately argue with me about strenuously, and I'll probably agree with you. And then to put in the capital expenditures, you could use a lookup with their method, but I'm just going to put okay, and then we put the CAD, and we put the equal lookup. Okay, hopefully you'll be using the lookup, and hopefully if they give you crap about using the whole line and not using a VLOOKUP or HLOOKUP, you should say, I don't want a job here, you stupid idiots. Because why does this format not work? Okay, and then now you might have to multiply this, but the reason I put that flag in for that very last one, they might not, it doesn't really turn off, so shift control, right arrow control R. And for a lot of these, what we really should have done is put equal the sum. Now, if you do this, okay, if you do this, and put the sum down here, okay, you should be able to say, oh, did I make anything obvious really stupid here? So we have, this is not so good. We have, if we take just this minus this, we have 950 million. And I'm starting to get a little worried. And let's sum this one too. I don't think I did anything wrong. And you know, I think I did something wrong. Okay. This, does it say that's how much we collect monthly? I should be so careful about this. Okay. For the first month, it says month is expected to be this. And then we expected per annum. They say per annum. And the operating costs are supposed to go up like that. Okay, so that is, I was afraid that this was an annual amount. I was supposed to divide it by 12 or something. And I don't think I got anything wrong. So how in the heck can we finance something where we only make 840 and then we put the total capital expenditures we have, and those now we put that in millions. So I should have done this. I should have. I'm going to take this one and put in millions. I'm going to put 1 million. And then I'm going to copy this, Control C, save this, space special as multiply. Okay, that I should have done that. So that one, and then, oh, I did a copy paste. I'm sorry about that. Well, I'll do the same thing. 1 million. Control C, space special as multiply. Okay, and let's make this just a little bit wider. Okay, so how are we going to possibly now, if we do this, our IRR without any grants, if we don't have the grants, the IRR will be 0. And if it's irritating you that I got my God damn it. Oh, what can I do? So that's, oh, it's 1.2 million. It's not that bad. So now we can put, let's just put the grant. And I'm going to pause there. There's just too much noise. I got to pause it. I got to stop. Okay, so I think I'm gonna this video is going on a bit, and I think I'm gonna have to make it into 2 parts. So I'm gonna do the financings separately. But if right now let's just do a little project analysis before we do the project cash flow. Perhaps we should put the payment from I don't know if you call it that, something like that. What do you call it? And then let's put first payment. This is for me like some kind of government grant. And then let's put the second payment. And then after that, let's compute let's do a little bit of project cash flow. Okay, and that's, you know, when you go to these people and say, I'm an expert at putting all this financing, and you also want to show that you learned something from school and you learned something, and you know Modigliani and Miller, but Merton Miller, who again, one of my, I just shook his hand, big deal, but he's a hero. He said, separate the financing from the operations and mess around with Ebitda and then put less the capex, and then you can put free cash flow before the grant, and then you can put add the grant, and then we'll put project IRR before the grant. Now I have another a call coming up, and but I need to see this project cash flow, and I need to see what let's then add the grant, and then so we'll put total up here. We'll put a total on both of them, total grant, and then we'll see what the free cash flow is after the grant. And if you right now, they gave you some interest rates that were something about 1%, 2% for the whatever the construction loan, That was, we got about a 2% for the construction loan. 1 plus 1, I can add that. Ooh, I am so smart. I'm not smart, I'm an idiot. And then but then this one was a little bit higher, it's 4%. And this one is going to be the bigger kind of thing because this is going to be ongoing, I think. And if our project IRR is a lot below 4% after the grant, uh, then we can we either uh, uh, after grant we can say, ah, shit, it's we'll go through the case, but it doesn't really work. Okay, and so we're kind of seeing what goes on. So this is going to be that, and then we put let's put both what we have. We have the here's our we'll put the date in first, and if we were a little more careful, I suppose. And look at this. I should have put this here afterwards. And what I again tried to do is put in our assumptions all of the stuff that's related to the operations before the financing. Okay, and now I'm going to do, put this date in and press the F4 button and then multiply it by this. And I guess that's not so hard, is it? You take everything F4 over from the left and you do that, and Shift Control right, arrow Control R. And then let's do the same thing. Take this one and put an equal sign to that. And I hope, that you understand that this is not about. I used to be so bad because I would think, I want to be really good in Excel and I want to be good at all the stupid shortcuts. And that's what financial modeling is about. And I was so wrong. It's unbelievable. You press alternate equal if you want here, Shift Control right, arrow Control R. Maybe we'll, I would have put a shortcut here, and I hope I didn't accidentally go past those outside things. That's kind of a dangerous thing you can do. And then, so now let's go and get our Ebitda, which is our revenues minus our expenses. And I'm looking at the time on my thing. I'm late for my Zoom call, but I have to finish this. I just can't do it. And then we put the capex in, and if okay, I know everybody these days would make that a negative and all that. I still leave it as a positive. Who cares? These kind of things. If somebody's not going to hire you because you use the positive number convention instead of using the other one, oh God. Okay, and now we start to get something that's that's really interesting. And of course, you have to show. We can put per annum since they always do that. And let's put that here, and let's put XIRR. That's what you have to use, the XIRR. And then I'll bet they didn't expect you to do that. And then everything occurs at the beginning of the month, so use the end of the month. And we get nothing. Oh my God, we get nothing. And you can say, ah, shit, it's nothing. We get no IRRs. And if you sum these cash flows, what do we get? It's a negative number. So what we have to do is we have to take this number and add in this grant we're getting. Shift Control right, now Control R. And then after we add the grant, let's see what our XIRR is. Okay, and I'm going to stop the video after this, and I'm going to call this part one and of the video. Oh, and then we got a little bit, and this can be kind of like it can be kind of like a PPP project where you don't have a lot to work with. Now, uh, the when they made this case, if we really were fancy, we would even put this in one sheet. But I mean, and put the financing in another sheet. So this is our operating model, okay? And that's what you'd have to start with. And now, once we've got the operating model, we're going to put in the financing, and I'm going to put that in as part two. Okay.